Hi guys, welcome to our new video series. In this series we always try to pick a genre, or you can pick a genre if you want, just tell us what you want. And we'll show you how to sound like that, or how to make your whole mix or whole band sound like that. So there'll be guitars, bass, drums, vocals, if we can pull that off, and also some mixing tips to get you where you need to be, if you want to sound like that. Yeah. In the first episode, we'll show you how to do kind of a surf rock thing. So please tell us what you think. Did we do good? Is it horrible? Couldn't you watch it? Tell us. If you liked it, please subscribe and hit the like button. We really appreciate it. And yeah, have fun. For bass guitar, we used a Samick EB121, which is an old Japan-made bass. It's a short scale bass, so you get a little bit more flobbiness in the low end, but I kind of like that for this stuff. That goes into the PV Centurion, which is a 70s solid state head, so it's also more vintage sounding than the modern stuff. That goes into the PV 215. So also old school sounding, especially with the 15s that are in, they just have a different kind of character to them. Then we dialed in the tones. What was most important is that in surf rock you got more of a soft but woody tone, so it's not a lot of pick, or you generally don't use a pick, and you roll back the high end. So I rolled back the tone on the bass guitar, and I rolled back the highs on the amp. But you don't have a lot of sub-low end, which you have in modern music. So I also rolled back the bass and put a little bit of mids in, because you don't need that extreme fullness. So you don't really need a lot below 80 Hertz. So it's 80 above and a little bit of low mids for the bass mostly. This was mic'd with an EV PL80 and a Sennheiser MD2, so the old MD21, for the low frequencies. So they were pointed where the cap meets the cone of the speaker. And we also used a SM57 and an MD21, pretty much dead in the center of the top speaker, to capture all of that nice woodiness and that natural sounding bass. Yeah, that's about it for bass. So for rhythm guitars, we used an old Taisco ET440, which is a 70s Japanese-made guitar with single coils, which is really important for surf music, in my opinion. That went only with the bridge pickup in this case for rhythm. That went into the acoustic 117, which is a amp that I dialed in to be a little bit mid-scooped, so more leaning towards the Fender side of things. And also really clean, so you don't need any distortion really, for our example at least. What is really important though is that the amp has a spring reverb, or you have some kind of spring reverb emulation, because you really need that drip from the reverb, so that is something that you don't get with other reverbs. That was mic'd with an Shure SM57 and a Sennheiser MD421. Yeah, it's a combination for winners, you know. It always works. It always sounds great, especially on clean tones, I think. It was pointed kind of to where the cap meets the cone. The MD421 a little bit more towards the middle part of the cone, so you get a little bit more high end, and I think that worked really well. We also mic'd the room with a large diaphragm condenser, in our case a Brauner Pantera. And what we did in the mix, which is kind of important also, is that we hard panned the room mic to the left or to the right, wherever, and the other two mics were only slightly panned to the other side, so that you get kind of a stereo-y image with a lot of room. So that's a nice trick to know. Yeah. That's basically it for guitars, or for rhythm guitar at least. For lead guitar, we also used the Teisco, we also used the same amp, but a few differences are there. We also used the neck pickup, so it was bridge and neck pickup into the acoustic amp, and the acoustic was dialed in to be a little more driven. It's really not overdriven, but it's got a little bit more compression going on already. We also dialed in a little bit more of the mids, so it just cuts better through the mix and also fills up a little bit of those frequencies which the rhythm guitar doesn't have. Yeah, and other than that, we did basically exactly the same from miking to panning, like with the rhythm guitars. Yeah, so that's it for all the guitars. For drums, we used 3 mics and 3 mics only. They were all dynamic mics. We used 1 mic on the kick, but a little bit further away, about, I would say, maybe 10 inches, 12 inches. And we used a Sennheiser MD2 for that, which is a omnidirectional mic, so you also get a lot of the rest of the kit, and not only the kick. Then we used an EV PL6, which was kind of pointed towards the hi-hat, but also on the snare. So it's like above the hi-hat, pointing down to the snare. For the third mic, we used a Sennheiser MD421 again. So as you can see, a great all-round mic. And we pointed that towards the snare, but like right across the ride. So you get a lot of ride, and you get a bit of snare, and a bit of the whole kit. That's basically the whole idea of that setup, is that you don't really close mic the stuff, but you really just let the kit be a drum kit, you know, like in a room. Yeah. What is important though is that the PL6 and the MD421 are equally distant to the snare, so that you minimize phase problems. Yeah, so we simply put the kick in the middle, the hi-hat mic on the right, and the right mic on the left. The hi-hat mic is not that great on the right. I would have liked to have the hi-hat a little bit differently mic'd in the mix, but I can absolutely happily live with that. One thing that is important with surf rock and the drums is that you have a lot of cymbals going on, but you don't have a lot of different cymbals. So you got basically only your hi-hat, which is all the stuff in the verse, and then you have the right, which is almost exclusively in the chorus, or if it's really soft, also in the verse. But that's basically the only two cymbals you're gonna find in surf rock. So the kit is really easy. What is also important is that you don't really need to hear the kick or feel the kick in any way. It's kind of there, and you can kind of hear it, but not really. It's not supposed to be a lot of low end or a lot of boom. It's just like a tom, maybe, not even that. So really be light on the kick. Yeah, and snare, play it softly. Don't hit the snare too hard, because then you're gonna get into more of a rock kind of territory. So the whole kit is played more in a jazz, rockabilly sort of vibe. Yeah.